the story thus far, rid the world of all fighting. The young Itachi is determined to make his dream come true. After graduating at the top of his class from the academy, becoming a genin, and gaining an early promotion to Chunin, he aims to become the first Uchiha Hokage and races intently down a path to glory. Meanwhile, the rivalry between the Uchiha clan, originators of the Nine-Tails incident, and the village increases in ferocity, and Itachi is pushed into joining the Anbu to be a bridge between the two. The condition for his entry is the assassination of the spy Kohinata Mukai, user of the Byakugan and the Gentle Fist. Itachi's cruel fight, his despair, is beginning. And no matter what you do, from here on out, know this: I will love you always. Chapter 4: Phoenix in the Blue Sky, remembering to dance on injured wings. Kohinata Mukai would be taking the following day off, his first in a month. Once Itachi learned this fact from the mouth of Shimura Danzo, he hardened his resolve. The arrangements were soon made, and Itachi and Uchiha Shisui, who was to accompany him, had the duty schedules changed through Danzo's agency. Itachi was going to kill a ninja living in his own village the following day. Mukai might have been a traitor, but the fact that he was kin to Itachi was unchanged. He was a comrade from the village. It would have been a lie to say that Itachi was not reluctant to kill the man. But this mission was more critical than any he accepted thus far in his life as a ninja. He could not refuse. Itachi kept very much in mind the fact that Mukai was a traitor. The man had been talking with Kirigakyo in secret and had leaked crucial confidential information about Konohagakyo. Thinking about this helped Itachi set aside his feelings of guilt. "Everything's ready," a cheerful voice interrupted his meditations. "Just like you told me, I put 8 out there." His little brother smiled. Itachi returned a grin. They were in the middle of the woods. Now that he knew the mission would be completed the next day, Itachi was taking a break, and Sasuke had begged him to join him for some training. In amongst the close-standing trees, Sasuke had hidden targets marked with double circles. And quite splendidly, Itachi couldn't see a single one of them. "All right, Itachi," Sasuke urged him in a spirited tone, unable to hide his excitement. Nodding, Itachi grabbed his kunai. Once he had wedged one in between his fingers, he had exactly 8 in his hands. 8 iron claws sticking out from loose fists. He lowered his face and focused his mind just a little. He then poured the chakra built up in the depths of his stomach into his eyes. Sharingan. The breathing of the trees grew restless at once. In the rumbling pulsation of writhing life, he saw a small circular foreign object, 8 of them. Itachi let out a small breath, and then he kicked lightly at the ground. In the air, his head and his feet traded places. With his body upside down, his center of gravity pointed downward and stretched out, stabilizing his posture. And stabilizing his posture increased the precision of his control over his kunai. He closed his eyes and imagined the 8 targets in his mind. There were 2 that he couldn't reach from this position. The one knocked over artlessly behind the front of the enormous rock was going to be the most troublesome. First, he threw the 4 blades in his left hand in a single motion. All unerringly pierced the 4 targets in relatively easy locations. Next, the 2 kunai clutched between the thumb and middle finger of his right hand. These also dug into their intended targets without incident. 2 left. Itachi's body was still in the air. Not even a second had passed since he had leapt up from the ground. He switched the kunai held between his middle and ring fingers to his left hand. Now he had 1 kunai in each hand. He waved both arms and threw the kunai at the same time. The trajectories of the 2 blades overlapped. They collided in mid-air with a sharp clang and then bounced off each other to fly in unexpected directions. He landed, his Sharingan glowing with a crimson light. As he stood up slowly, he felt the presence of his brother before him. Sasuke had hidden himself behind a tree to avoid danger, but now he popped his head out suddenly. He seemed dumbfounded at Itachi's skill in hitting all the targets. Sasuke's mouth hung open as he stared at the rock before him, the location of the most troublesome target. Naturally, Itachi hit that one too. He had made the last 2 kunai collide and changed their trajectories to that end. Wow! You even nailed that target in the blind spot behind the rock. Sasuke flew out from behind the tree. He was clutching kunai in both hands. He was in such high spirits after that display of his big brother's skills that he was practically beside himself. All right, my turn. Sasuke, we have to go. Sasuke was practically pulsating with excitement, but he stopped abruptly. The face he turned toward his brother was thoroughly displeased. You promised to teach me new shuriken techniques. He glared at his brother in protest. Itachi had indeed promised, but he had more than fulfilled his promise with what he had just shown the younger boy. I've got a kind of important mission tomorrow. I have to get ready, mostly mentally. His little brother turned his face away and pouted. The cool eyes beneath the furrowed brow were twisted up as if he were about to burst into tears. You're a liar, Itachi. Sasuke wasn't angry that Itachi hadn't taught him a new shuriken technique. He was angry because his time with his big brother had been cut short. If possible, Itachi would have trained with Sasuke to his younger brother's heart's content. But the mission the next day was not a simple one. He couldn't neglect his preparations. He wanted to cry too. His little brother turned his face to the ground, even as he peered out at Itachi with resentful eyes. Itachi waved him over, and the clouds on Sasuke's face were instantly cleared away. Happy footsteps ringing out in the forest, Sasuke raced over to him. "Sorry, Sasuke, another time," he said as he popped his index finger up and poked his still moving little brother in the forehead. "Ow!" Sasuke closed his eyes and cried out, his progress thwarted. He looked up at Itachi, his mouth turned downward on one side. Whenever Sasuke got that look on his face, Itachi knew he was planning something. "Check this out!" Crossing both arms and readying his kunai, Sasuke smiled boldly. "Yeah!" Before Itachi had the chance to stop him, Sasuke was flying toward the target. "Hey, you're gonna hurt yourself!" Itachi shouted, while before his eyes, Sasuke twisted his ankle and plunged magnificently into the ground, head first. On the way home, carrying Sasuke after he hurt his ankle, Itachi walked toward the Uchiha compound in Konohagakure. Feeling the warmth of his brother on his back, the quiet time together passed peacefully. Sasuke's aura sent out faint ripples. Itachi stopped and looked at his younger brother over his shoulder. "What's wrong?" "This is where father works." "Konoha Military Police Force Headquarters," Itachi answered his brother matter-of-factly, looking up at the massive concrete building constructed with the circle as a keynote. "This has been bothering me for a while," Sasuke continued, sounding rather grown up. "Why is the Uchiha clan crest in the military police force symbol?" "You noticed that, huh?" "Of course," Sasuke replied, straightening up. Itachi's mouth naturally stretched into a smile. "Right. Well, basically, our Uchiha ancestors organized and founded the military police force. That's why they integrated our crest into the symbol for the organization. The Uchiha clan has handled and maintained public order in this village for a long time. The crest is proof of our proud history," Itachi explained, avoiding difficult words as best as he could in his attempt to fulfill his brother's desire to learn anything and everything. Sasuke listened silently. "Right now, the Uchiha clan is smaller, but even now, basically, all of us belong to the first squadron here and contribute to maintaining public order in the village. There were exceptions, like Shisui. Itachi had heard that the ninjas of the village had made an appeal praising Shisui's superior talents. If Shisui were to join the military police force, his interactions with ninjas outside the military police force would have been severely curtailed, and he would have been completely contained within the Uchiha clan's framework. Due to entreaties from ninjas in the village who feared that outcome, Shisui had been assigned missions out in the field. However, Sasuke didn't need to hear all that, so Itachi abandoned that line of thought. The only ones capable of cracking down on ninja crime are even greater ninja. and the only one capable of bringing to a close battle started by other ninjas is an even greater ninja. Are you going to join too, Itachi? Sasuke's innocent question pierced his heart. I'm not. The real answer got stuck in his throat. Don't know. We'll have to see. He could never tell his little brother about joining the Anbu for the sake of their clan and how dissatisfied they were with the village. All he could do was offer some non-committal response. Do it! Sasuke shouted in a voice free of worry, unaware of the dark circumstances of adulthood. His glittering purity wrenched Itachi's heart. When I grow up, I'm going to join the military police force too. Both brothers in the military police force, encouraging each other in their work, days passing like a dream. But that day will never come. Itachi was going into the Anbu, and even if he lived in a world that would allow him to join the military police force, he could never be content with that fate. His dream was to rid this world of war. The vessel of the military police force was simply too small to realize something that big. Father's coming to my entrance ceremony tomorrow. It's the first big step toward my dream, Sasuke said. Itachi's baby brother's dream was to work as a ninja together with his big brother in the military police force. Itachi was glad, but that dream would never be realized. Yeah. The vague reply was all Itachi could give Sasuke. When they passed through the gate separating the Uchiha compound from the village, Itachi abruptly felt an aura beside the wall. You're late. What were you up to? I want to talk to you. Their father, Fugaku, arms folded in front of him, was looking at Itachi. Let's get home. Yes, father. Their father started walking straight toward their house with a confident stride, and Itachi moved heavy feet to chase after him, his little brother still on his back. When had he become annoyed at facing his father like this? He knew the answer, but he didn't want to acknowledge it. His father's room. Their father sat with his arms crossed before Itachi and Sasuke, sitting alongside each other. I'm told it's tomorrow, Fugaku said abruptly. Itachi stayed silent, feeling his heart start to pound in his chest. He knew what his father meant. Fugaku was talking about the assassination of Mukai the following day. That was what was making Itachi's heart beat faster. Exactly how much does my father know? And who did he hear about the mission from? Itachi had a vague answer to the latter question. It had to be someone close to Danzo. But why had Danzo leaked information about the mission to his father? Doubt called up more doubt, stirring up Itachi's heart. Ha ha, that's my boy. It's only been 6 months since your promotion to Chunin, and you've already come so far. Itachi looked at his father silently, and Sasuke turned worried eyes on his older brother.
Tomorrow is a special mission, and I've decided to go along.
Itachi's heart pounded more fiercely than it had all day. But the rocking of his brother's heart next to him was many times fiercer. Their father's head was filled with the clan, and he had forgotten exactly how important the next day was for his younger son. Anger toward his father welled up in Itachi.
If you succeed in this mission, Itachi, your entry into the Anbu is basically secured.
Fugaku looked to his silent son. His eyes dyed crimson.
You know that, yes?
Itachi was only allowed to take one person on the Mukai assassination. He had also already told Danzo that Shisui would be that one person. The fact that his father didn't know this meant that he didn't know the particulars of the mission. He had likely only been told the day the mission was to be carried out. Fugaku despised the village, and here he was being toyed with via information brought in from the village. His father seemed so pitiable to him, Itachi could hardly stand it. A mission that required him to be ready to die. It had to be Shisui by his side. He would not allow his father's interference. You don't have to worry so much. Besides, Itachi looked at Sasuke. Even though he was likely on the verge of bursting out into loud sobs, his wise little brother was pushing back his own feelings and smiling. It's all right, Itachi. He felt as though he could hear Sasuke's voice in his head. A smile spread across Itachi's lips, and he put his words into his eyes. Tell him, tomorrow is a big day for you, right? He gave the smaller boy a push with the power in his eyes. Dad, tomorrow's mission is a very important one for the Uchiha clan. His little brother's courage was shattered by the hard words of their father. His mind focused on nothing but the clan. Sasuke lowered his head, a frozen look on his face as he desperately held back his tears. Itachi's anger towards his father surpassed his limits. Was the clan that important? Did he not care about Sasuke? All that Itachi saw in his father's eyes was the future of the clan. The man hadn't given a single thought to the fact that his elder son was about to go on a possibly fatal mission, and he didn't even see his younger son. How could he ever win against Konohagakure with such a narrow outlook? Itachi hated all of it. You know, I'm not going on the mission tomorrow after all, Itachi said.
Have you lost your mind? You know how important tomorrow is. What on earth are you saying?
I'm going to Sasuke's entrance ceremony at the academy tomorrow. His father caught his breath. At that moment, for the first time, Fugaku remembered what Sasuke was doing the following day. This too made Itachi so angry he could hardly stand it. It was sad. It's customary that for relatives to attend. You must have gotten the notice, Father. Itachi was serious when he said he was abandoning the mission. Those words came from the bottom of his heart and were no lie. His father tried to understand this. After a fleeting silence flowed through the room, he let out an exasperated sigh. All right, enough. I'll go to the academy. Fugaku then stood and walked toward the dinner table, where their mother was waiting. Itachi and Sasuke followed him out of the room. From the garden came the dry sound of the bamboo rocker arm of the Shisi Odoshi clacking against the stone. Itachi knew that now that he had said all that, his father would absolutely go to Sasuke's entrance ceremony. His son's entry into the Anbu was the first step toward realizing the dearest wishes of the clan. He couldn't make a mess of it over Sasuke's entrance ceremony. It was precisely because Itachi couldn't have his father come along on the mission that he had seriously intended to go to Sasuke's entrance ceremony. And being sick and tired of everything, wanting to go to the academy, none of it was a lie either. But still, he couldn't actually give up on accomplishing the mission with Shisui. Joining the Anbu was not a foothold to realizing the dreams of his clan. It was a modest step toward realizing his own dream of becoming the most skilled ninja in the world in order to get rid of all fighting. He had no intention of giving up on that. And to that end, he had used his little brother. He despaired of himself. Although it had been decided that their father would take part in the entrance ceremony after all, Sasuke seemed to feel responsible for the stormy air between Itachi and Fugaku, and he trailed quietly behind his older brother. Itachi looked at him over his shoulder, and hiding his own feelings of guilt, he said, "Make sure you really ice that ankle." Did his face stiffen up as he smiled when he said that? He hoped not. "All right," his little brother replied, a complicated look on his face. Itachi had no idea what to say to Sasuke at that moment.